Time is 6 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Norwood City School District Regular Board of Education meeting. Today is Thursday, June 29th. The Norwood City School District Board of Education follows a bi-monthly meeting schedule. The first meeting of the month is called our committee meeting. At this meeting, we discuss fully our agenda for the board meeting to be held the third Thursday of each month. As board members, we encourage you to attend, watch, and listen to our committee discussion resulting in action at the board meetings. For full disclosure, our committee meetings and board meetings are always announced, video and audio taped, as well as posted to our webpage for your view. All of our meetings are public and visitors are welcome. Mrs. Camphouse, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Atwood.
Present.
Ms. Ballard is on our way. Mrs. Rarica.
Present.
Mr. Taylor.
Present.
Mrs. Cole.
Present. All right, if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.04, this is the adoption of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as written?
All motion to adopt?
Any discussion? Mrs. Ronan, were we going to move the superintendent recommendations?
At this time, I don't need to because I don't know the answer to the.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
hire. She's
Okay.
going to call tomorrow.
Okay,
So we could still have the executive session to talk about.
Okay.
Look at her resume, but she is not in the personnel portion.
okay. Sorry, I forgot to clarify that, and I just saw it and remembered the discussion
Thank
we
you.
had. Any further discussion? All right, Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. Right, item 1.05, these are the regular meeting minutes from May 18th. 1.06, the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on June 20th. 1.07, the minutes from the committee meeting June 20th. Do I have a motion to approve 1.05 through 1.07?
All motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. All right, with that approved, we will move on to item 2. This is superintendent recommendations for personnel, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Ronan.
Thank you, President Cole. Under employment, number 1, personnel, we are hiring Caitlin Leach as a science teacher at Norwood High School, and I think I mentioned at the committee meeting, she's a 2017 salutatorian and Norwood graduate. So we're so happy to have her. And also Allison Headley, a new kindergarten teacher at our Montessori school. Number 2, it's a contract renewal. Number 3 is a change in status. Coach Money is going to be at the middle school as an intervention specialist next year. Number 4, we have some stipends. Number 5, we are still hiring for our summer program. And also number 6, it's, Mrs. Ferguson, who runs our great Avenues for Success summer program. Number 7, we've had a request of an employee for a leave of absence for the next school year. And then number 8 was a correction. We did have Mrs. Friend misclassified. She's a student assistant. So that was incorrect in last month's meeting. And then number 9, we have already started to hire for our fall sports. So I am going to stop there because we have 2 sections tonight to approve in personnel.
All right, do I have a motion to approve 2.01 sub items 1 through 9?
All motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Miss Ballard. Yes. Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. All right, Mrs. Ronan?
All right, then item number 10, it's Summer Blast Camp, and these are our the site staff for our great summer camp program. And 3 of them Mrs. Ferguson was able to hire Brian Hernandez, Cheyenne Redmond, and Jamel Jackson are all headed off to college in the fall, but they are spending their last summer with us running summer camp. So that is the item number 10.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item number 10 under personnel?
All motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I will be abstaining from this vote. All right, Mrs. Camp House?
Mr. Atwood?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard? Yes. Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Cole?
Abstain. All right, with that approved, we will move on to item 3. This is our Education Committee report, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Rarica.
Thank you, Madam President. Our first item on the list is a list of 2023 Norwood High School graduates, and we are so proud of them. Good job, everyone. And item 3, we don't have a voting thing for our graduates, right? Nothing.
No, it's all together.
Our second item is our handbooks. I have brought up that we should talk about the dress code.
Let's go ahead and do, if you'll introduce 3.02, 3.03, 3.04,
Sure, and then we'll go back.
we'll go back.
Okay. So in the student handbooks, we have handbooks for high school, middle school, elementary, and preschool. 3.03, we have a textbook adoption. We have a new pre-calculus book. And 3.04, we have our memorandum of understanding with the Hamilton County Education Service Center for their early learning programs.
Do I have a motion to approve 3.01 through 3.04?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, let's talk about those handbooks. So, did you guys get to see our previous dress code?
Yes.
Cool. And then I sent you 3 examples of some other schools' dress codes. I feel that our dress code is confusing. I'm getting a lot of reports from parents and kids that it's not consistently enforced. It looks like to me that it's because it's confusingly written. For starters, the first area is the dress code philosophy, where ours talks about being attractive and representing a quality school, which I all thought was pretty strange language, where all 3 of these others just say, dress code is there to provide safety, a safe learning environment. We respect students. Students need to respect learning community. The end. Nothing about being attractive or taking a shower. Well, one of them does. Or quality schools. Then our list of what students can't wear, I think, is confusing. Like the one like Amber brought up last time, no spaghetti straps, no halter tops. Well, as we know, the students do wear those. If they wear a little cardigan or shawl over it, Amber's wearing a halter top tonight. So, and several others on there that I'm like, wait a minute, kids do wear these things. Or, so it does seem confusing. So if you look at these other schools, theirs are a lot less confusing. The one is Walnut Hills. Did you see Walnut Hills? My goodness, so short. They have 4 things students cannot wear, and within those, they have implied what students can wear. Like in number 3, they say your breast, buttocks, and genital areas need to be covered. I don't like the clothing that exposes undergarments because, as we know, lots of bra straps are exposed, especially my child. Her bra straps are always exposed. I have a picture, if anyone needs to see, where she is wearing a very long skirt and a very appropriate shirt, and her poor bra straps are right here all the time. And in the back, a lot of bras these days are very covering, And so then they show outside the shirt, and in the back, her shows quite a bit because it has a big piece of cloth going up her back. So I just don't like that part. But also, I wanted to point out the Roanoke one, which I sort of adore because it's got the picture, which I think is super great. Anyone can look at that picture and say, wow, I know what I need, my minimum requirements are. I know what my minimum requirements are. Although they do list that you're not allowed to wear pajamas, and I know we have several people who have noted that their children have worn pajamas to school. So I don't know, we might want to talk about that. This Roanoke one also says hoodies, which I would not want ours to say because that would imply that the whole sweatshirt, including the hood, cannot be worn because I call the whole ensemble a hoodie. I mean, I think they mean hoods, not hoodies, which is the whole thing. That one's sort of my favorite because of the picture and because it's just so easy to understand and puts everything plainly. Here's another note. It said something needed to be looked at. They mentioned tattoos. We don't mention tattoos in any of ours.
No, we don't.
So for me personally, I think that it's not what's on this page that is as important to me is that we are consistent with this. That was a lot of the things that I heard at the end of the school year last year, was that we're not being consistent in enforcing. So for me personally, I am not as concerned about what's written on this paper as I am that we're consistent in enforcing it. Shoot, I was going to say something else and it totally just left me. I totally lost that. Brandon, did you have something?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note here.
Oh,
that-
I'm sorry, Brandon. And the changes that we talked about in the committee meeting, if I don't
you're
say it
fine.
again. We did talk about some changes that Amber and Alice would like to have seen last week at the committee meeting, and those changes have been implemented.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's
I
just,
made
some
sure they were
redundant
in there.
language.
yeah,
So
that's what I wanted to
All
point
right,
out.
we've already legislated out the
Yeah.
tank top, so that
Yes,
definitely needs
that's
to come
out.
out.
Right.
So sorry for interrupting, but I didn't want to lose it again.
No,
That,
No.
Good
right.
job.
I was going to say that anyway. Yes, we trimmed the language a little.
yeah. So I think it's important to note here for everybody that the actual board policy is just the top section of what's in our dress code. So the board policies, the Board of Education policy states that little paragraph and then the 3 bullet points underneath it, 1, 2, and 3. If you go into our policy manual, and that is policy JFCA, that is the entirety of our board policy. And it's just an umbrella that covers everything. And then what the administration of each building then does is takes that umbrella policy and then elaborates a little bit further on that to meet their building needs. So that's what's done here. So everything that is in the handbook that elaborates on what our board policy is, I think it's fine. I mean, if it's a little confusing, there's already been a couple of tweaks with it, but I don't think that the overall board policy itself needs to be revamped. I think
So
the
you're
board-
saying it's just this paragraph and these 3?
that's our board policy. Yes. So if you go into our policy manual, and that is policy, like if you go into board docs and you go into policies and you search dress code or JFCA and you bring up that policy, that is the entirety of our board policy. And so what the administration does, because we have elementary buildings, middle school buildings, high school, is then they take the board policy and then further elaborate on what would work for that building. And so that's the further elaboration, which, we approve, but, the board policy is the top section. Everything underneath that is administrative.
Right. I think part of what we were discussing last time is do we need this much language to describe it? Can we say it in this much language if it helps with clarity's sake for interpretation?
You
That
know-
was one of the reasons that this came up.
If
We only have 3 requirements that are met there. I agree, it's
If-
short.
If the administration, if the high school administration feels that they can convey their message with just stating the board policy, and they're okay with that, but I think that would provide more confusion. So what the high school administration does is then they take that and they elaborate so that people can have some ideas or some examples of what would comprise complying or not complying with our umbrella policy, which is the top portion of that.
So should we send these to Tina Akers?
Well, are you looking at the page that's on here, Alice, right now? It looks
Yes.
pretty straightforward.
Whoa!
Right now. I don't see anything that says attractiveness.
Yeah, that's in the next part.
What part? That's what I'm saying. Where are you? Because I'm reading this page that literally says student dress code, and I'm rereading it with those adjustments that were discussed. And everything that I see here, headwear, scarves, unless religious purposes, no see-through mesh garments, those are pretty consistent with all of the policies that you brought here. Nothing should be, a weapon, offensive like language, things like that is pretty consistent across all of these that you brought. So
Sort of.
So I'm not sure where you're seeing that additional part yet.
I know I saw the word attractive, but
It's
I guess-
unattractive attire.
There it
Black
is.
and white.
Thank you, Michael.
But they're not meaning, to me, they're not meaning the person unattractive. It's,
Well, still, it's
I mean-
subjective. I think it could be a lot simpler or a lot more respectful to the learning process.
I think it'd be a lot simpler if it was just a force across the board, even. Like that, it's just
Right.
Yeah, I
And
think,
I'm
from
getting,
one bell to the next is
when I read this, I say, yes, I can see why it would be interpreted many different ways and not be consistently enforced.
well, and I think, as I mentioned at the committee meeting, I know that consistency is a theme. And I mean, when school's not in session, that doesn't mean that work isn't being done. And I know that the administration is working with, that the top administration is working with the other administrations that are working with, their teachers and staff. And I think that I'm hopeful that we are going to have a smooth school year. And I would just like to, for me personally, I don't have a problem with the way that it's written. I would like to trust the people that we have in place and expect this is going to be better this year.
We do try to keep the high school and middle school dress code consistent because otherwise you encounter difficulties. If you have a child in each building, it's hard to explain how something could be different. So we do try to work with both the middle school and high school principals.
And there are,
I do wish our board education policy statement was more like these that just say, our board policy is that the school dress code is in place for the safety of a learning environment and that we respect students and their choices and that students are expected to respect their learning community. I would like that much, much better.
I think that leaves it way too open for interpretation.
For just this paragraph
And-
right here, it's not the rules. Just that opening paragraph where they're stating these call it the philosophy of the dress code. So where this starts, school dress should enhance a positive image of the student in the district, yada, yada, ending up with environment is unacceptable. I would be much more comfortable if that said, school dress code is for the purpose of safety in the learning environment.
it says that in 1, 2, and 3.
But
So
again,
1,
right.
2, and 3 is in
Right,
that.
as the dress code philosophy. That first paragraph is the dress code philosophy. And then,
but again, that first paragraph is the policy that's adopted. So we would have to change policy, which,
That's what we're here
it's,
for.
it's possible. Right? We
Yeah.
can change policy, but.
yeah, we got rid of
but
the tank
that's
top
not,
thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it
I
takes.
do agree that I don't like the language of undue attention, because when you use those words, the attention can sometimes be seen, especially when it's a young lady coming from a male teacher. Then who's really the one that's pointing out the statement of, undue attention?
Where is that?
It's in the first line under policy states. So any form of dress or grooming which attracts undue attention, which I understand if it's got offensive language on it, that's undue attention. But that can also go towards someone saying, well, you're distracting your male teachers, or, it can be seen in a sexual light. The wording on it can be read in an uncomfortable way. And I can understand where that can be interpreted, not necessarily because it's uncomfortable language or a weapon or something like that that's on someone's shirt, but undue attention sometimes can be deemed inappropriate sexual attention.
Yeah, and it also could mean that you have a student who just has decided that they're not going to shower or bathe for a month and not groom themselves, and they're smelling a little bit, which is affecting the students and everybody around them. I mean, that whole thing is there for multiple purposes.
So
I understand that it could be worded a little bit better, but
Yeah.
that there is a purpose to that statement.
So is it enforced? Is that statement enforced? My children will tell you that it's not. They sit by many a child. So I think if it's not enforceable, that it shouldn't be in there, and that the philosophy should be, it's in place to ensure the safety of the learning environment.
I think it is
We respect
enforceable.
students. Students
has to be
need to respect the school
Yeah,
community.
that's a good point. It's enforceable. It just has
It
to
just
be.
hasn't.
I want to be
Right.
really careful because I remember, so many years ago that they were talking about uniforms, and I want to be
Yeah.
careful because I personally don't like that idea, but I
I'm
want to be
also not pro
careful.
uniform.
I want to be careful with all this nitpicking because if we get real nitpicky and you know what I mean, that's where this is heading. So, like I said, I would like to trust that the people that we have in place and that the people that are in charge of this, I would like to think that we're just going to have fewer issues. And we didn't have issues last year until the very end of the year. And, the people that I had say something to me, your child signed the handbook at the beginning of the school year. You signed the handbook at the beginning of the school year. Nothing has changed. Why is this a problem in April?
Probably because they didn't read it. I know I
Well-
didn't. This was the
well,
first
that's-
time I really took a deep look at it. I was like, whoa, this is confusing.
I'm
Right,
just
but it's
looking
given
at-
to you for a reason. It's
Exactly.
not given
Yeah.
to you just for you to sign and, throw in a drawer somewhere and leave it alone. I mean, this is the handbook for your kids to attend one of our schools.
Yeah.
You should read it.
So
I'm
brings
just saying-
up another point
But
that it
it's
should be
consistent.
easy to find.
But it's also consistent with the language, like even here, to that, students should avoid dress that disrupts educational process, constitutes a threat to individual safety. It's right there. So we are literally saying the same things that are in the ones that you brought
that's
us.
the one that's very thorough.
This is the short one.
Very
No,
thorough.
this is the short one you gave me.
Is
This
that
is-
Evanston?
This is I believe you said this one was Walnut Hills, the short one that you
Oh,
like.
Walnut Hills looks like this.
I don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
that one.
The one that Mary did looks quite a bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a pretty consistent theme with the language. I can understand maybe if you want to just eliminate that one sentence, but again, all of the things that are in here are in the policies of the examples you gave it.
Right, which I feel they're very much easier to understand here.
Okay. Any
Okay.
other discussion?
Oh, also, it's not easy to find. So finding the handbook at all is in one place.
That's
Took
true.
me quite a while.
You're right,
doesn't-
Alice. You pointed
doesn't
that
So
have
out.
a
we used
drop
to-
box.
We'll put it in two places, under schools and also about us. We'll put it in
Right.
several places.
We used
because-
to get a paper copy, and I know when my kids were in preschool, I kept that paper copy by my computer because I had to pull it out constantly. And my kid was in preschool.
I had to guess where it
And-
was when I went to look for it, so I assumed student rights and responsibilities would be a good starting point. But when I click on
That's where I
that,
went to,
it
too.
doesn't give me any drop-down suggestions for that section.
Okay.
So
We can put it under
I
there
would
also.
say it would be there,
We
as
put
well
it-
as I assume it says
We were
teaching
gonna put it under
personnel.
schools, and we were also gonna put it, I think, under About Us, maybe in 3 places, so it's
Oh,
easy to
right. I
find.
was
Student
looking
rights
under
and
students and
responsibilities.
families. Like on the website, when you click
Okay.
on families,
All right.
I was looking there
Well,
for
that's
it.
good. If that's intuitive,
And I
we'll
have
add it
gotten
there,
that
too.
from parents too, that they're like, well, it's hard to find. And we're
I
not
think
doing
student
paper
rights and
copies, which is great,
responsibilities
because
is a
that's
good place.
expensive.
It's
Okay.
their
But-
responsibility to be dressed
Students' rights
appropriately.
and under families, okay.
Then, yeah, I would
So
put
where
it
is it
there.
at currently?
It was under schools
It's
and
under
also, I
schools,
think,
and
About
then you
Us.
scroll
believe.
down,
Oh,
and
okay,
then,
It should be easier.
It's page like 29,
well, that too,
20.
but just finding
No,
the
that's
handbook
weapons.
period
Was
Um,
hard.
was
I'm
hard.
glad you
I
pointed
had
that
to
out.
text Mary, I'm like, I can't find
Yes.
it, help me out here.
And that's not good. It should be in 3 or 4 places, easily accessible. So we will fix that. You know, that the sentence, which now I've lost, about does not disrupt the school. The lawyers will tell you always to keep that in, just because, you know, there's been various movements, you know, black armbands over the years, Confederate flags. You need that particular sentence because if it causes disruptions legally in court, you can ban it. So that's legalese that the lawyers always want in there. So it's not really anything to do with attractiveness. It has to do with disruption.
So if we have another issue during the year, like say last year when we had the parent who was upset about the tank tops, and so then we voted on it. But if that's in the section that's the responsibility of whom the principal and you, Mary, or then,
Well, we responded to her that it was because it was about a crop top, and we did
or
respond.
that was the latest, but earlier in the year. We did have problems earlier in the year. Or was that the year before?
I think it
with
was
the
the year
tank top.
before.
Or I thought it was at the beginning
Oh,
of
that
this
was the
past year.
That was the shoulders
Yeah.
showing, and we did change that because
The
that
tank
person
top
had
thing.
a very modest top, but since it said shoulders covered, her shoulders were showing. So we did change that, and we changed the tank tops, and we can take out the
So
word
if something like that
unattractive
comes up in
attire.
the future, should we say, hey, Tina and Mary, you need to look at this, because if it's beyond this first paragraph and these first 3 things, as Brandon's telling us tonight, we can't change anything below there,
Well,
then
it's administrative.
up to Mary and Tina
Right. So if,
to change the rest.
yeah, if you're going to change anything in the top that's specifically related to policy, then that's a completely separate item than what we're discussing here tonight.
Right, we already adjusted the handbook language based on our discussion last week.
Right. And then
Right.
that requires 2 readings. So that's a whole,
But then tank tops wouldn't be a policy because that's below.
That's not in a policy, it's just an expansion on examples given of what we will potentially
that's all
expect.
administrative, and that's something that, you know, the superintendent and her team can look at changing, and then we just have to approve it. Like, they change it, they bring it to us and say, we've changed the handbook, we've updated it here, do you approve? And then we can say yes or no.
We would just bring this page back to you, the dress code page.
And then a new copy has to go out to everybody because we've updated our handbook.
They did update.
There's no copies. There's no paper
You know what I
copies.
mean?
It's
Like,
not be on the
you'd have to, right.
But
Like,
we
if you
did-
change
we
it in the
did
middle of
update
the year,
format
you-
though, so that it's easier to do.
Right.
That was a good thing. So now we can make updates throughout the year without as much of a headache.
Right.
That's helpful.
Yeah, but to change the policy is a completely different topic than what we're here.
Talking about.
I would love to. It doesn't sound like I have support, but let's just say for the record, I would love to change that for the reasons I stated.
Sure.
I won't bring anything else up. It doesn't look like I have support, but
I would just need more of the policy side, not the examples of here's what to wear, because we literally have the same basic litany of here's
it
examples
would
of what
stay the
is
same.
acceptable.
It would be worded differently.
Well, and it sounds like some of it's legal too. So, I mean, we have to protect.
Of course, the legal
district.
part would stay.
Right. I'm just not sure in terms of policy how much simpler we can get than 2 sentences. because the other part, like he said, it's administrative. So if we need to make adjustments, which we already did, we trimmed some fat on that language last week. And the rest of it is very consistent with the other policies that you did like. So in terms of policy, I just would need to see what would be shorter or more easy to understand than the 2 sentences that we have that's actually policy. Because we only have 2 sentences. And then the rest is just an expansion of what that could mean and some examples of what not to wear, which are similar and consistent with the rest. So I would just need to know what language you might want to adjust, but that could be a policy discussion for,
Also, I tried looking it up in the policies, and it was very difficult to find too.
Yeah.
It took me all of 15 seconds.
I know you're super great at it.
I'm just
Brandon.
saying,
it is not as intuitive as it would, as I
Right.
would say it could be.
Your brain
in
is
terms
quite
of
different
searching
from
the handbook
mine.
for a topic, a hot button word. It should be under student rights and responsibilities because it is a student responsibility for sure. But it doesn't give you the drop down on the side.
Or that's the handbook, but in the policies,
I'm saying in the handbook.
I did look in policies before I looked in handbook.
But I'm saying parents are
Also,
going to look
I couldn't find it.
in the handbook, and people visiting online are going to look in the handbook. That needs to be as intuitive to anyone who's not familiar with all of this.
Correct. Not a superstar policy
just-
researcher like Brandon.
Type in dress code under policy.
On the handbook or under,
In policy.
In policies.
She said she couldn't find a
Policies.
policy. All you gotta do is drop down to the policy side and you just type in dress code and JFCA pops up.
are you talking about in the handbook?
No, in the
In the
policy.
Right.
policies.
She told me she couldn't find it.
she couldn't find the policy.
The policy.
I'm
yeah.
saying, I'm looking in the handbook and having trouble finding it
Right.
there. That's
I don't
where
want to
I'm,
lose my page here.
because most people aren't going to look at every policy we've got. I'm trying to find it in the handbook as if I were a parent looking for this information. I'm
Right.
saying,
The parents aren't
I'm
going to
not,
look for the policies.
I know
Right.
keywords to look for. Not everybody does. But that I want intuitive.
Well, it's
and
in the
more accessible.
table of contents.
Well, that's what I'm looking at. It doesn't show in this table of contents. as a
Well,
drop-down.
so when I got on my Chromebook, there was some sort of update. And so the links
Yeah,
that we have here aren't working as they probably would.
this looked much different on my computer
Yeah.
at home than it does here.
Oh, goody. Okay.
Well, but that being said, but
That's
that
helpful
being,
too.
But it's summertime and they
Right.
change things
Well,
during
but that being
time,
said, we need to
so-
think about the mobile view too, because I
Correct.
imagine. A lot
Oh,
of
right.
parents
Oh,
are
and I
looking-
was looking
Good
on
point.
phone too. And then I was like,
So-
well, this is getting nowhere. So I
But-
switched to my desktop.
So you had trouble with the mobile app?
But
Oh, yeah.
you know, my home office, I have 2 very wide monitors, and I could see it
You could
very
see it
plainly.
clearly.
But
Yeah.
here,
When I
It
went on my
is-
desktop, I
it
could
is
find
different.
it.
Yeah.
But
And
to
most
that
people
point,
will be
most
using
parents are
them,
gonna be using their phone.
Yeah, when I was at home looking at this, I hit the hyperlink in the document and took me straight to it. But when I came here
It was like-
on this device, yeah, I got this thing that says something had been updated and the links may not work right.
Yeah.
And then so the formatting's all off and it doesn't look as how it did.
Okay. I did have a question. I know with that, we had talked last week about the electronic communication device and changing the time that
I
was on there.
changed,
I saw that the times were
Yes.
updated, but it still doesn't say, it doesn't have the little caveat there if an instructor is asking a student to use that.
oh,
That part was missing still.
okay.
Brandon, you weren't here for this. I don't know if you caught up with that message, but I was saying like, you know, using a device in class. Sometimes the kids are using a device in class. Teacher might have them look up something, or they give them downtime, things like that. And if they're using a device and another teacher walks by, or you know, they're walking down the hallway using something, I don't want them to automatically get in trouble when they were told to use something. So I want them to have a caveat of, you know, if it's instructor led, they're using it. It's just not currently in there, so we're going to add that little
Sure.
bit
Yeah,
into that language.
I think it's a great expansion.
We will add that before it gets posted.
And this dress code is what I found. And I thought, well, that's not right because it's not long enough. Hence the confusion on my part. But this is what I saw.
Right. Okay.
I don't want you saying she can't find the dress code. I can.
Alice, I apologize.
It just seems so short.
Well, that's,
And I
that's
was
what
like,
it
that
is.
can't be
You want
right.
short.
This is true. But and then I had to go in the handbook and then it was a lot more. And I was like, all right, here we go. So, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, we have had discussion. Is there any other discussion?
Well, thanks for the good discussion, guys. But Sorry you didn't agree with me.
Mrs.
I think we're all
Am I
saying the
here?
same thing. We're just wording it
We're-
different.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I could come back with, if I write some policy, I'll come back and let you know. And then you can tell me what you think then.
Mrs. Camp House.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes.
I went away from my meeting
All
when
right.
it went to my policy.
Moving on to item 4, Policy Committee. We have no policies this month.
Wait, we didn't do 3.03.
Yeah, we did. We
Oh,
looked them all.
the
it's just memorandum of.
Oh, it was-
And the
it was
textbook,
discussed.
the calculus
Yeah.
textbook,
Yeah,
or
we
looked
them all
pre-calculus, right? Just
I was like, did we
pre-calculus.
get stuck on handbooks and I missed the other two? That's
No, I did it all before handbooks, and then we talked about.
Yeah, I
handbooks.
asked her to touch on 3.01 to 3.04 since that's where the voting box was.
Sorry, that's been a while
and
ago.
we didn't have a cool presentation like when we had the history books. And last week, I asked Christina if it changes languages.
All right, so item 4 is the Policy Committee. We don't have any new policies this month. Item 6 is Building and Grounds. We don't have any Building and Grounds this month.
We
So-
do. We have a tiny update.
We do?
The dumpsters have been put in place at View
Oh,
for the roofs.
Excellent.
So they are there. Ha, update.
good job, Amber.
Thank you.
Boom.
And apparently, I've been told that once they start finish removing the roof at Norwood View, they'll come over here to Williams. Believe that's what they're gonna do.
Okay.
So we're anxiously awaiting them.
Yep. But the dumpsters are in place, so they hopefully will get started soon.
Okay. So now we are on to item 6 on the agenda. This is the Finance Committee report, and I will turn it over to our treasurer, Mrs. Camphouse.
Thank you, Madam President. On the agenda, 6.01 is the monthly financials, the CFO report, and construction change order listings. 6.02, final appropriations for the current year. 6.03, temporary appropriations for next year. In order for us to conduct any fiscal business starting July 1, we need to approve temporary appropriations in June. 6.04, certificate of estimated resources. The final statement of estimated revenues, also comparing revenues and cash balances to appropriations for the county auditor's review and oversight. That will go out tomorrow morning after your approval tonight. 6.05, transfers and advances. Our annual transfers from the general fund to associated funds. The PI fund is getting a large sum in order to provide cash for our future construction needs, including both Shea Stadium updates and the beautification project. Our severance accounts needed more funding as we had several retirements this year. And finally, the athletic account transfer will happen, although it is less than I expected it to be. 6.06, property, vehicle, and liability insurance renewal. This is our renewal quote for the 23-24 school year. 6.07, Plattenberg and Associates, a 5-year limiting contract for fiscal reporting. 6.08, authorize the final payment to Graybach for View Elementary. All end of project paperwork and final pay applications are attached for your approval. This project has been left open for a while as Mr. Peter held the contractor accountable for an issue with the plumbing in the kitchen. So this final payment has a long time coming. 6.09, special education agreements for the 23-24 school year per the Associated Students IEP. 6.10, fiscal year 24 grants to accept the early allocations of our federal grants. The total federal funding is over $1.7 million for next year, and it provides services to students beyond what our local and state shares of funding can provide. 6.11, notice to proceed. We're approving this document from our architect after the fact. View's roof project has already got a good start, and they will move on to Williams when finished. 6.12, the high school roof change order. We talked about this change order last week, but the cost, I wanted to repeat that the cost has been reduced about 15% from their original request. This has been coming for probably 6 months. We've been talking about it and kicking it back to the architect and the contractor, saying that we needed more documentation and more work on the price. And so finally, Like I said, they reduced it by 15%. And if you look at the change order itself, you'll see there's quite a few pictures on there where they are proving that there was quite a bit of excess insulation that needed to be removed. There was quite a bit of equipment rental in the form of dumpsters that needed to happen, and a lot of labor hours to get that material off of the roof in order for them to redo the roof. They had to rebuild the skylights and several other things up there to make it the light to be the right height for the roof. 6.13 Shea Stadium turf and track improvement engineering proposal, to accept the engineering proposal for the track and football field upgrades. In our past projects, Kleinger's Shushu has been very helpful in planning projects, and we are looking forward to working with them again. 6.14 payment in lieu of transportation. Our annual approval of transportation payments for students attending private or charter schools per the transportation mandates set by law and the Ohio Department of Education. 6.15, a resolution to declare transportation impractical. This resolution is required per new mandates and transportation law and will be updated every time a student or their family requests transportation to a private or a charter school. 6.16, security project at the high school, to approve the additional cost for labor to further security protections at the high school. And as we go through this project, as we finish one, we'll be moving on to the middle school and then our elementary schools, trying to get this additional security taken care of. 6.17, finally, to create an unclaimed funds account. As students graduate or leave the district, sometimes we are left with a positive balance in their lunch account. This unclaimed funds account will hold these funds until the parent requests a refund or the 7-year period is up and we can transfer to the general fund. And that is finance. That's all I have for finance.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve 6.01 through 6.17?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Not a busy month for you, Julie.
No.
Sorry.
So what have you been doing,
Only
Mike?
17 items. Slacking.
Yeah. Do you, for this unclaimed funds, does this have anything to do with the My School Bucks? Do you happen to know?
I'm not sure where they collect the funds
Okay.
out because it goes through Milford. So it's not a software that we buy. But wherever parents pay their lunch, where they build up their account for lunches, that's the software that has the money in it, the funding in it. And then it goes to Milford, to their checking account. But then Milford writes us a check for the excess, and we hold it in that fund so we can give it to parents that are owed.
I know it used to be My School Bucks is where we used to put money, and then I heard a few people say they had missed some money.
Yeah, it may have changed, like I said, when it went to Milford because they have their own selection of software.
All right. Any other discussion for finance? All right. Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. All right. So we are moving on to item 7. This is executive session. In accordance with ORC 121.22G1 for the employment of a public employee. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. All right, the time is 6:45. We are in executive session.
He's got us.
All right, the time is 6:58. We are back into open session. Item 8 on the agenda is the hearing of the public. We don't have anybody here. So we will move on to item 9 on the agenda. These are board announcements. Anybody have any announcements?
Go to Norwood Day. It doesn't have a lot to do with school, except for that we use the money to donate to school organizations, but It's next month.
What's the date, Alice?
It's July 26th, the fourth Wednesday of the month, the day after the parade, always. And at Coney Island since 1932. It's the longest running Norwood tradition. I don't really know that. I'm just saying that.
And many
I'm
of
just
our
claiming
students
it.
will be in the parade.
That's
There
right.
you go.
And we all will be, probably.
Tuesday night, right?
Yep.
There you go.
So I know Little Indians
Little
still
Indians is still taking
Sign up.
registration for another 15 days.
another 15 days.
15
Several
days.
teams are in specific need, and I know we can take kids from neighboring
Yes.
communities.
Yeah.
What are the ages? Do you remember right off?
We
But
are in need of 8s, 9s, 10s, 11. Pretty much everything.
okay.
Pretty much everything.
And I think any community around here except Deer Park,
Except
right?
Deer Park. Right.
Any community around Norwood except Deer Park, we need some little football players.
Is it because they have their own?
The league that we're in, you cannot take kids from any district that has it. And the closest one next would be playing Claremont County, so I don't see a lot of people from Batavia or Bethel coming down.
It's a bit of a drive.
Bit of a drive.
Slightly.
So.
Any other board announcements? All right, 9.02, our superintendent's report. I will turn it over to Mrs. Ronan.
I do have just a fun fact. The last week of school, and Christine, are you able to pull that up for me? We had a derby, our first derby race. It was Mrs. Ruth's class and Mr. Mayfield. The students raced the cars. So what they did was they learned about aerodynamics. We can flip to the next page. It was the culminating event. They had to create their cars and understand that the shape of cars, the shape of airplanes, that's what allows them to go fast or get the lift that they needed. So they designed them and then they raced them. And I think they discovered that, some cars go faster because of their design. A ton of parents showed up, which was wonderful. There were snacks for everyone. The parents were delighted and everyone left smiling. And we had certificates for the children, but they had a grand time. And we all got invited, so it was a whole lot of fun. So that actually, so I just wanted to share the students' accomplishments. So that concludes my report. It was a very, very fun day. And it's great when you see a room full of parents.
Oh, absolutely. Very cool. All right, 9.03, this is our Great Oaks report, and I will turn it over to Ms. Ballard.
Thank you, Madam President. It was kind of a slow month. We were finishing up graduation and we had many graduations. So in that aspect, not slow. But that was pretty much our focus, was getting our students out the door. We had a 100% graduation rate at a couple of our campuses. So we are really proud of them for that. That is just a big achievement overall. We gave away so many scholarships. And the cool part about our graduation ceremony is they get their scholarships at graduation. So we got to see them come up on the stage and be recognized and given their awards. And a couple of them were Norwood students, so I was really proud of that. They also had the recognition dinner as well. And we got to recognize and celebrate our students for winning at several of the different competitions for finishing up the year, as well as their scholarship awards. The DEI committee that I'm on there at Oaks, I was able to schedule a fall training for our staff, and that's going to be on September 15th. For a 1-hour training presented by one of our national presenters, Imago. So we're going to partner with them, and they're going to come in and do a workshop on SEL and how it applies in the workforce. So SEL is social emotional learning and its effect on the current workforce and hiring practices. So I think that'll be a really interesting topic for us. And pretty much we also had our biggest fundraiser of the year, which is a huge golf outing and a silent auction as well. And that money, part of it goes into our student funds for if the student is in need of something. So if this kid needs shoes, if they need tools to make it in one of their classes, whatever, this program helps to pay for the needs of whatever that student might have. So that was our biggest fundraiser of the year. And we pulled in over $63,000 this year with all of the different fundraising aspects between our raffle tickets, the golf outings, and the auction. About $63,000 for that, and some of it goes towards scholarships as well. But most of it is to help students in need, and it pays for licensure, books, like I said, clothes on their back, shoes on their feet. So really proud of that. And that's pretty much what we've been doing this month. So that concludes my report.
9.04 is the Norwood Community Television. Of course, they did the live stream of graduation, which is always appreciated. And then they've been busy with Norwood Ready Kids too. I guess there was a Touch a Truck event at the fire department on June 3rd, and NCT made a video. They recorded and are making a video of things that happened that day that Norwood Ready Kids can use as a promotional video, and they are working closely together with them. So that is what.
Oh,
they
and
have
Madam
been doing.
President, as a follow-up to that, there was also, the mayor also declared it a Norwood Ready
A
Kids
Kids
Day.
Day.
And we do have the proclamation, and we'd like to invite the Shepherds to come to the July meeting and actually get their plaque. And we
Excellent.
can show a little bit of snippet of NCTV where they actually recorded what happened that day.
Okay, great.
So does that sound okay for the July meeting?
Absolutely.
Because they've been so generous to us over the years.
Mhm.
And
Indeed.
Brandon, you were there,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Me too.
and Alice was there, so.
All right. 9.05 OSBA Legislative Liaison, and I will turn it over to Ms. Fowler.
Thank you, Madam President. Our OSBA DEI committee met on 6/27, so we've just had our meeting this week, to discuss our potential topics for our training workshop from leadership. And they have changed their idea of doing a one-topic training, like Zoom call style training, to doing a hybrid model in collaboration with the Urban Symposium that is happening this fall. They're hoping to book September 11th, but they don't have a venue, so that date is still up in the air. Once I have a date, I'll pass that along. This will be open to as many board members as who can attend. So they're hoping to do it more in person, but they're going to offer a hybrid model, so they have an online option as well, so you can log in. And some of the topics that they're looking to include will be policy, raising DEI voices in political spheres, improving cultural awareness and relevancy, possibly some other topics, again, once that gets sussed out. But I would encourage any of you to participate. I know I'll be seeking to participate as well, because I know we have to do that since it's a different style of workshop than we normally approve. But again, that'll be sometime in September for the Urban Symposium. The other one is on my phone, sorry. Let's see here. The Senate Education Committee heard sponsorship testimonial on Senate Bill 112, sponsored by Michael Ruley, which requires school buildings to comply with national life safety standards, and excuse me, called this the Ohio Childhood Safety Act. The committee also heard sponsorship on from Senator Ingram, she's from Cincinnati, which would require public and chartered non-public schools to create a seizure action plan for each student with seizure disorders. So they're working on improving those situations for non-public schools. I hate that that's not already a standard, but I'm glad that Dr. Ingram is working on that. The Primary and Secondary Education Committee, they presented a bill that would require school districts to grant students excused absence from school for participation in 4-H and FFA programs and activities. The committee also held sponsorship to establish community connections in the workforce programs to connect students to jobs and internships in their communities. The bill would also require ESCs to administer the program to school districts they serve. So like, for example, if Oaks offers that service to students, they could then extend it to a home school. So Norwood students that might be interested in those programs could utilize it through Oaks on their behalf. And then the rest was all financing, but those were the two that were the top related to school districts at this time for this week's report.
Any news on our new legislation that we sent?
That's got to go to review, so that'll be something we'll probably hear about during that wonderful meeting that's Mike's favorite when it goes to the floor. So it's going to be something that the committee will get and review, and then it'll be up for discussion and
And
approval.
did I hear that some other schools also looked at it and were very excited also?
3 other school districts took the resolution that we passed, and they also passed it and sent that to the state of Ohio as well at the end of the month. So I told those guys thank you so much, because it was a really big deal, and other schools saw it and wanted to also support it.
Right.
So we'll hopefully hear more later this summer once that goes before committee, and if it grows to a platform where we can actually present it as a bill, then that'll be the next step.
Oh, Amber, do you have any news on the disagreement between the Senate and the House over the budget bill that has to be
They started a
resolved
pillow
by-
fight.
by tomorrow? I know, unless it came on the news tonight, there's
Oh my gosh.
still,
I haven't seen an update yet.
see, I was,
So the Senate passed theirs,
Yeah,
but it's not the same as the House, which is doing Cut Patterson.
right. But I
Right.
haven't
so it's
seen.
in that conference committee where they have to resolve it.
Right.
And
I have not
No,
seen
I just read
anything
the story
further
too.
than that.
Right.
So
And the
I'm
governor was
hoping-
telling them to keep at it because we need a resolution by tomorrow.
yeah, I haven't seen anything publicly released yet, but I have been at work most of the afternoon. So if anything came out today, since before I got that report,
Yeah, I haven't
do
seen
not know.
anything, so.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Could
it
be
was
midnight.
not resolved.
Not
by
resolved, I know.
Not
It's
gonna be
kind of
solved.
what the message we're getting. So what does that mean? Then we have to do like temporary appropriations because we don't know what we're getting
If they
from the
don't-
state?
If
They got to
well,
pass a budget.
if they don't pass the budget, we won't get funding until then. Sometimes I think it's only happened once before.
It was in Strickland's
Yeah.
administration. It was mid-July
Yeah,
before they passed it.
yeah,
And so everyone had to scramble.
and which is really shameful because there's plenty of money in the state budget this time. So
yeah, they,
it's-
they shouldn't be fighting this at all. And I think that's why the governor wanted them to work it out, because they know that this year the school's budget should not even be close to a chopping block at all.
Right.
So I don't know what they're doing.
Yes,
wanna
we'll
be
see in the
difficult.
next 24 hours.
our cash balance is sufficient to get us through, and until we find out what's going on with our state funding. It's only 25% of our total funding anyway. So
I'll message one of the reps that I know he's on the finance committee. I can ask him.
Let's see where it is. Thank you.
I'll ask him.
All right, thanks, Ms. Ballard. 9.06, this is Avenues for Success, and I will turn it over to Ms. Verica.
Thank you, Madam President. Laura Ferguson, in charge of our avenues, reports that Blast Camp is going well. We average 50 students per day. The day is packed with learning and fun. Parents report that kids eat dinner and then fall into bed after their active day at camp. Exclamation point. We still have openings. So if you have a need for the camp, please do contact them. They still can take you. And they said they have 25 to 30 middle school and high school students beginning in July attending our summer tour. We have added a fun academic piece before each trip that has challenging math and vocabulary games to keep their skills sharp. We have also added 2 new programs, Bloom Her, Build Him, that include social emotional learning skills and life skills. And then I just want to add, I read about this summer tour thing, and I might still need to sign my kid up, except for she is going to another camp during it. So, and it says you have to commit to all the trips. So I'm like, but it is so cool. They take the middle school and the high school kids, and they go on all these field trips to seriously cool places. And without you as the parent, they just go. That's the best. So it's really neat. And that's all I have to report for that.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Verica. Item 10, these are our future meetings. So our next committee meeting will be Tuesday, July 11th, 6 p.m. here in this room. And then the regular meeting will also be in this room on July 20th at 6 p.m. So just remember, for the summers, we are here for both meetings. Two
Hey,
of
we
the
were
three
just
of us.
not here last month, okay? It's habit.
Well, and I think all the other years in the first month, I always forgot and went to the high school.
And in construction, we were over in the middle.
Miss-
We've been
Yeah,
everywhere, guys.
we've
Don't
been
hold this
lots
We
of
against
have
me.
been everywhere. That's
Or in the one year we were in the high school all summer long.
So do I have a motion
remember
to
being
approve the future meetings as listed?
All motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, Mrs. Camphouse?
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes. All right, with that, we are on to item 11, which is our adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
All motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The time is 7:13 and we are adjourned. Thank you.